Hey guys, Shapy. Today we'll be checking out my top 10 favourite movies of the year. I'll be honest, this was a very difficult video to make because it took me about a good old day to actually think of a solid 10 that were my favourite. There was a lot of movies that came out this year that were very popular, but for some reason they didn't click well with me. For example, I'll give you one of my honourable mentions. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is one of my honourable mentions that didn't make the list. I liked it, but I know everyone loved it this year, and sadly, it didn't connect fully with me to really put it on my list. But I did enjoy the film, but I know I might drop a lot of hate for this, but it's not on my top 10, because this is my top 10 favourite movies of this year. These aren't the best movies that came out this year, but they are my favourite. So please don't judge, guys. Everyone's got a different opinion. We all understand that. Comment down below what your guys' favourite is. But no one's ever going to have the same top 10 as each other, so please be respectful down in the comments. Please like the video, and let's get right into number 10. So, number 10, we got Avatar: The Way of Water. Now, this is, I'd say, my most recent film that's going to be on my list that I've checked out. This wouldn't have been on my list about a month ago, so it did put an impression on me. It was like the first Avatar, where it shocks the audience that go see it. It just ups itself each time a new one comes out. But one thing that was dragging it back that didn't bump it up even higher for me was it was very long. Now, I watched this in a 4DX experience, so back here in Australia, that's where the chairs move and you hear the water splashing and all that. It's like a VMAX but on steroids. But that's probably the best place to watch Avatar: The Way of the Water. Unlike the rest of these films in this list, I wouldn't see this at home. Avatar's built for the cinemas, I feel like. It's a movie that you have to go to the cinemas to enjoy it. You probably will enjoy it at home, but it takes away the best experience to watch the movie. Now, I still think the first one's probably up there with this one. They're both tied at the moment. This one had a bit more of an emotional impact than the first one, in my opinion. But the first one had a bit more action, and it didn't feel so drawn out like this one. The acting in this was great. I really enjoyed the kid characters in this one, and Sigourney Weaver played one of the teens, which is cool. I only learned that just before going into the movie to watch it, so that was a cool little thing. One problem though is that they have like 3 more sequels set up, so there wasn't much risk going into this movie. There's not like we had that danger of losing a main character because we knew that there's still more sequels to come. But I very much enjoyed it. I very much recommend going to the cinemas and watching it. It's still out at the cinemas right now, so please do if you haven't seen so already, because you'd be missing out truly. One of the best movies to watch at the cinema, and I had such a great time watching it. So Avatar: The Way of the Water is number 10. Coming in at number 9. This is... I've seen a lot of people's lists this year. Not many people have this movie on their list. And this is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. The Nick Cage movie that came out, I think, the start of the year or early quarter of the first part of the year, I'm pretty sure. Because I remember watching this, it felt like an eternity ago, but I've really enjoyed this. It's stuck in my head the whole year, actually, and I thought to myself after I watched this movie, this has to be on my list when it comes. No matter what comes out, this movie shocked me with actually how funny and action-packed it actually was. I went into it knowing that it was some Nicolas Cage film playing himself, and I thought, might as well give this a try. But by the end of the movie, I had a great time. The cast was great. Pedro Pascal as well, the guy that's going to be playing Joel in the new Last of Us TV show. He was amazing in this film. Probably the highlight. Probably stood out, if not a bit more than Nicolas Cage in this movie, I must say. But the lines of delivery in this is great writing, a hilarious movie, uh, very different movie as well. Nicolas Cage playing himself. You don't get that a lot of movies these days, so it was very meta in that way. Now, I know it's pretty underrated as well. I haven't seen a lot of people mention this movie for some reason. It really stood out to me. Maybe because it came out early in the year, a lot of people forgotten it and just didn't get a chance to see it. But I highly recommend this movie. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I definitely recommend that. I've probably seen it 2 or 3 times since I've seen it originally. So it's definitely a movie that's rewatchable. If you like comedy, if you like action, if you're into Nick Cage, this is the movie for you. It's my number 9, and go see it. Number 8. Now, like I was saying earlier, this list is very difficult to make. There's a lot of films. All these films I really enjoyed, so it's hard to get what in what order. And this is a film which is number 8, down low on my list, but it could be a top 5 on other people's list. I really love this film, but I just couldn't put it any higher than the rest of the great movies on my list. And that number 8 is Nope. Now, I'm a big Jordan Peele fan. I loved Get Out. I still think that's what his favorite, well, my favorite film that he's done. Us, that was good. Not as good as Nope or Get Out, but it was a solid film. I know that was a bit controversial, Us, but I enjoyed it. But Nope, oh, such a great movie. I loved it. It felt like Jaws back in the day. It was like Jaws, but for the desert type feel. Probably the best cinematography and best filmed movie of the year that I've seen personally. I know I haven't seen every movie this year. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing out on that could be contended for best film movie, but in IMAX, this movie is so beautiful. It's up there with Avatar with best cinema experiences that I've had this year. Now I know this copped a lot of flack for the whole spoiler alert, but the whole monkey thing not really meaning anything in the grand scheme of things. But I really thought that he portrayed a good message about wanting to always see a spectacle of things that doesn't need to be a spectacle of things, like animals getting trained at the zoo, for example, for shows. Like people, human nature just want to see these big spectacle things that don't really need to be looked at and could be left alone. Kiki Palmer actually really stood out in this movie. I don't think I've seen her in much of anything, to be honest, before this. I'm sure there's some TV shows or movies that I've caught her in, but before this, she hasn't really stood out to me. She was amazing, and it's probably the best thing other than the actual directing. It gave me Jaws vibes, and Jaws is one of my favourite films of all time, so for it to be compared to that, I must think highly of it. I'm sad that it's not in my top 5, but these rest of the movies are so hard and nail an exact top 10. But Nope is my number 8. Coming in at number 7 is a film that I did not expect to be on my list this year, to be honest, until after I watched it, and then it's kind of stayed with me throughout, and that is Elvis. Now, myself personally, I'm not a huge Elvis fan, so going in, it was good to learn all this stuff about Elvis that I didn't know much about. He's huge. I've listened to some of Elvis Presley's songs before in the past, but I was never a huge fan of Elvis. So going into this, I was a bit not that interested. It was like the Queen one as well that I thought it would be. This one is such on such a bigger level than the Elton John and Freddie Mercury biopic that it just feels like an actual film. It doesn't feel like a biopic. Now, I'm not usually a fan of musicals as well. They're probably one of my least favourite genres of films. But with Elvis, this completely changed it. It was actually really good. The musical parts, they stood out to me. The main actor, Austin Butler, he was amazing. Probably couldn't get a better actor to play Elvis, to be honest. He was the perfect cast. It was greatly told in a story where it didn't get confusing. With the Freddie Mercury one, they skipped over a bunch of parts, but with Elvis, they really made sure to tell it as a complete story and not confuse the viewer. Tom Hanks' character was great in this movie as well. He played his manager, who was a total asshole, but Tom Hanks, he's been getting a lot of different parts these days. He's not in his prime anymore, but he still delivers when he can. Now, I know a lot of people love this film. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. It had a long runtime as well, with nearly a 3-hour runtime, so it didn't bore me at any point. I was very much intrigued into the story, and this is coming from a guy that isn't a big Elvis fan. So, for all you Elvis lovers, or if you just want to give this a chance and see how it is, I very much advise, because Elvis is my favourite musical, my favourite biopic of the year, probably one of my favourite biopics ever, and it's my number 7, Elvis. Okay, coming in at number 6. Now, I know this will be a bit controversial because this is loved by many, and I love this franchise the most out of probably any franchise that I've seen, and this is The Batman. Okay, so let me explain why it's only number 6 and not in my top 3, like a lot of people would have The Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. The Dark Knight trilogy is my favourite franchise of all time. The Dark Knight Rises, controversially, I know a lot of people don't really like that movie, but it's my favourite film of all time as well. So, huge Batman fan. The reason why I didn't put it up any higher is because it didn't feel like it came out this year for me. I watched it probably twice this whole year, and it felt like it was released last year. Probably because it was released in, I'd say, March, early March. So it was a bit of a disconnect for me when I was thinking of all the recent movies that I've seen, and it was an amazing movie. I'll give it that. It was totally different from any other Batman that we've ever seen, but I feel like it's not as rewatchable as the Nolans and the classic Batmans with Jack Nicholson as the Joker and the Tim Burton Batmans. I just don't think it's as rewatchable. It's an amazing first time watch, don't get me wrong, but replayability is a big factor for me, and I don't think it's got that tick. Now, Robert Pattinson as Batman, probably up there as one of the best Batmans of all time. But Bruce Wayne, he's not a very good Bruce Wayne. I know this movie is meant to be more about Batman than Bruce Wayne, but I love some Bruce Wayne with Batman. I want to see a perfect mix. This was just Batman, primarily a detective Batman movie, which we haven't really got in the live action scenes as of yet till this movie. So I'll give it respect to that. It was really balls to the wall, and it gave a different outlook on Batman, which is great. So number 6 is still high for me. I just didn't quite enjoy it as much as everyone else did. I know a lot of people say it's the best Batman movie ever. I don't think so. I think it's in the top 5 Batman films of all time, but it's not there in my top 3 Batman films of all time. So the Batman's number 6. I know I'll probably get a lot of controversy for that, but these are my favourite films of the year. Not the best films, not your guys' favourites. These are my favourite, and I just couldn't rate it any higher than number 6. Coming in at number 5. Now, this film, probably just before I started recording, was, I'd say, in my top 3, and I changed my mind at the last second because this top 5 is so hard to determine what is in what order, because any of these could be in the top 3 from now on. And number 5 is Top Gun Maverick. Now, I've only seen the original Top Gun this year before I saw Maverick, so it was all brand new, the universe, to me going into this sequel. So I liked the first one. I can see why it doesn't age that well as when it first came out, but I still thought it was an enjoyable film. But this one, it's Top Gun, but 10 times better in my opinion. It's got the better action, more thrills, more like stakes to the story, better acting in it as well. The first one's a bit corny for my liking, but this one took itself very serious, but at the same time very fun, and still a big blockbuster movie. The acting in it was great. Miles Teller, I've ever since I saw him in Whiplash, he's been one of my favorite actors. I wish he got more parts to show off his acting talent, and I'm glad this was one of the movies that he got his chance to be in the limelight next to Tom Cruise, which is a big thing. Now, this is probably in a lot of people's top threes. I know it's Tom Cruise's most successful movie he's ever done at the box office. I loved this movie. It really surprised me because after the first one, I thought, what could they really do with the story to add on to it? And it was a genius idea having Maverick come back into the story, and then having Miles Teller as the son of his partner that he felt like he killed in the air that time in the first one. So, and even Iceman returned, Val Kilmer. He came back for a little short appearance, but it was always great seeing him back. And yeah, it's probably the most like thrilling movie that I've seen at the cinema this year. The stakes in that third act alone was I was gripping onto my chair that whole last act. It was just amazing. Probably one of the greatest final acts in a movie that I've seen. And yeah, it was hard to put it as number five. It could easily be number three. It could easily be number two. But it's just the way that I'm feeling today. It's my number five, Top Gun Maverick. My number four. Now this is getting close to the top two, top one. My favorite movie, number four, is X. Now X, when that came out, that blew me out of the water. I haven't before everyone asked if I think Pearl was better than X. That's a big debate. Which one's better, Pearl or X? I had two different completely movies, but I haven't seen Pearl yet. That was one of the movies where I haven't seen. Could have been on my list if I checked it out, but I haven't had enough time to watch Pearl. I watched the first 10 minutes and then I had something to do and never got around to watching it, but I could just tell from the vibe of the first 10 minutes that X and Pearl, different movies. One's a character study, one's a full on slasher. I don't know if you guys know this. Slasher, one of my favorite genres of all time. I love Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Leatherface, all them. They're my jam. So to have a 2022 slasher on the big screen was just unbelievable. Might I add, Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, some of the best actresses working today. Add on to a slasher film, you got money. Now this was told in such a quirky and just different way from what a slasher usually is. Having two old people as the villains, like that's that's crazy to even think about. Adding crocodiles and freaking just some of the deaths in this movie are brutal and hilarious at the same time. I couldn't stop laughing with the cinema that I went and saw it with. It was shocking, funny, bloody as well. A lot of nudity as well. But it was such a fun time. I'm definitely going to remember that cinema experience for the rest of my life. X, I've seen it probably about 3, 4 times since the cinemas as well. It's a very rewatchable movie, as a lot of slashes are. They're just a lot of fun, and you kick back, relax, put on X, and enjoy yourself. So, X is my number four of the year. One of my favorite horror movies that come out in the last 5 years, and that says there's been a lot of good horror movies coming out. But please check out X if you haven't, and I'll definitely be checking out Pearl. I might react to it on the channel if you guys want to see that. So yeah, X is my number four, and now into my top three. Now this is very hard. Before I get into all my top three favorite movies of 2022, I will drop some honourable mentions for you, so then not all the films are getting missed out that are in my top 10. A lot of my honourable mentions just didn't quite make the list. I really wanted to put them on, but it's so hard making a top 10. So these are some of my favourites that didn't make the list. One of probably the most scary movie I've seen this year with a cinema, Smile. Jeez, that was creepy. That gave me sinister vibes, as in just not knowing how to react, being creeped out on the edge of your seat. Smile, such a good movie. That was so close to making my top 10. The most scared I've been in a movie this year, for sure. Another honourable mention, another horror movie, The Black Phone. Now, this one I really enjoyed until the third act. I feel like it was super rushed in that third act. I love Ethan Hawke as the grabber. Such a great actor, Ethan Hawke. Scott Derrickson, great director, he made Sinister one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Now, I feel like they could have made a better film if they just put the runtime a bit further, just to explain a bit more and not have it feel so rushed at the third act. But other than that, amazing film. Another honourable mention, another sci-fi horror type, Prey. Now, probably the best Predator movie to come out since the original. Uh, this one surprised me because I just put it on one night, expecting to be like the other Predator movies in the past few years that haven't quite delivered. But this one, putting it back to the original, just in the forest alone with a predator. That's the best concept for a predator movie to have. Is just a one-on-one survival feeling, and this delivered so good. Such a beautifully filmed movie as well. I love the cinematography in this movie that it used. Prey just missed out on the top 10. A bit of a surprise, this honourable mention, Clerks 3. Now, I don't know if a lot of people enjoy the Clerks franchise. I have never seen number 1. I've only seen Clerks 2 and 3, but this one that came out this year, probably the most emotional that surprisingly that I've gotten filmed this year. Just really plays on your heartstrings, which you don't think a Clerks movie would because they're very stupid and very comedically dumb, as people say. But Clerks, such a good time. Surprised me that the third one. I think this is going to be the last one as well, but such a great movie. I recommend it if you're a fan of Kevin Smith. I recommend it if you've seen any of the other Clerks as well. It's a good time, fun time, sad time as well. My second last honourable mention, Glass Onion. Now, this just came out. I just saw this last month, actually, when it came out at the cinemas before it's released on Netflix. It got released on Netflix this week, actually, but I saw it at the cinemas last month, and such a good movie, Glass Onion. Knives Out mystery, Knives Out 2, people would say. Now, this was probably the closest to coming on my top 10, but Avatar, just from the cinema experience and how it just changes cinema history all the time when a new Avatar film comes out, had to put that at number 10. But Knives Out, I'd say Knives Out is number 11. If you had to put a 11 on the list, that would be Knives Out. Ryan Johnson, great director. Not as good as the first one. The first one had more of a mystery element of a whodunit. This one had more of a just a fun time and more comedic and just felt a bit more basic than the first one, but I still really enjoyed this film. Great actors. Edward Norton, one of my favourite actors of all time. American History X, Primal Fear, Fight Club. Daniel Craig was great in this. He's always great in the Knives Out movies. I could see this becoming a very successful franchise as well. They could add 5 Knives Out films, and with this director, he could make a brand new film each time and still have the audience love it. And my last honourable mention, a lot of people probably didn't see this year, but it came out on Shudder probably a few months ago, I'd say. I only recently watched this probably a month and a half ago, and that is Deadstream. Now, this was such a surprise to me. I went in this thinking it was going to be just a typical crappy found footage film, but once in a while those found footage films can come out and surprise a lot of people. Now, this is super Evil Dead vibes. If you love Evil Dead, I really recommend Deadstream. It's found footage Evil Dead. That's basically all you need to know. Some of the funniest times that I've watched the movie I watched it with a mate, and we just couldn't stop laughing at the main character. A lot of people think he's a douchebag, but we really enjoyed it because, as a fellow content creator, we kind of understood all the references and all that. So, please, if you like comedies, horror comedies, if you like Evil Dead, please watch Deadstream. My sleeper movie of the year. Okay, coming in at number 3. And that is a movie that I didn't think would be on my top 10 this year. I was excited for it when I heard about the sequel to the original that I was a fan of, but never thought it would be as good as what it actually was, and that is Terrifier 2. Now, the first one I really enjoyed. I know a lot of people don't like it. Some people love it if you're a big slasher fan, but I was a fan of it. I wasn't in love with it, but I thought it was a solid movie. Art the Clown really was a great character, and that's probably what won me over. So going into the sequel here, I was hearing a lot of high praises and buzz around it from the film festivals, and it actually got released in here in Australia. I think because of that, all the praise that it was getting, it got a limited release. I watched it on Halloween night in cinemas over here in Australia, and I would never have guessed a movie like this, with all the damn guts and the blood and all the gore, would be shown at the cinemas here. It just didn't seem like a cinema type feel, but I absolutely loved this movie. This is probably number one, but like 10 times better than that. Uh, it went for a surprisingly long time too. I think it was like 2.5 hours for a horror film, which is super long, especially for a slasher. But I never felt bored in any moment. I really enjoyed it. Art the Clown's just getting better and better every movie. I love the main actress and her little story. It actually had a story, unlike the first one, which was just more about the kills. This one was pretty meaningful, and the story was. I feel like the story would have to of being good for you to sit there for 2.5 hours without getting bored, because the kills are great, but after a while you get bored of the kills if it's just kills with no meaning behind it. So that's what actually set apart the sequel from the first one. But yeah, Terrifier 2, it's actually was going to be my favourite horror movie of the year until my next one, number 2, came out. And when I saw that, I knew instantly that's going to be my favourite horror movie of the year. It was nearly my favourite movie of the year, and number 2 is Barbarian. Now, Barbarian, it's got a lot of praise out there, and rightfully so. I was hearing about that film before I caught it in cinemas, that it was a really surprise horror movie, and not many people expected it to be as good as it was. So I was going in a bit um, hyped up, but I didn't know what it was about. I just saw the trailer once in cinemas, I think when I was seeing Halloween or something, and I saw the trailer beforehand, and I was interested, but I didn't. I heard it's better the going blind than to actually see the trailers and that and going in beforehand. So I'm glad I didn't know about the story going into it. And geez, spoiler alerts, but the twists that they had in that movie with that monster chick, that shocked the whole cinema. Not just me, but the whole cinema. I heard gasp in there, and just looking around at everyone's reaction and that, and then it cuts to black, and then Justin Long's character, everyone's like, "What the fuck? What just happened?" You have like 5 seconds to digest what. It's just all crazy, and that's halfway through the movie. I've never seen a movie do that since probably like last one I remember watching was Psycho, that had like a huge impact halfway through the movie, and then bam, onto a new character like nothing ever happened. I love Justin Long, one of the great horror actors. He'd be instead of a scream queen, a scream king, I guess you'd say. But yeah, one of my favorite movies of the year, and definitely my favorite horror movie of the year. I definitely suggest you check out Barbarian. Go in without knowing what the hell's going on, and you'll love it. I loved the cast. I loved the director. It was super creepy, and I loved the flashback sequence to when the murderer guy was, even if it was very minimal. I think it went for like 5 minutes, but like they could make a whole movie out of just that character. So that was great. It was so close to my number one, but my number one, drum roll please, is Bullet Train. Now, a lot of people really enjoyed this, but I don't think this would be on many people's number one. Bullet Train was the best time I've had in the cinema probably all year. Uh, Actually, another one where I just went in and didn't really see the trailer, wasn't that excited. I just went in blind, and I feel like that's the best way to go see movies these days. Just not listen to the reviews beforehand. But Bullet Train surprised me. It was exactly like a Guy Ritchie film. I was actually surprised that he wasn't the director behind this, because I would have thought for sure it would have been a Guy Ritchie film. The way that it was shot, the comedy, the action, it was great. Brad Pitt, amazing. He just surprised me each year. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, up there with Kill Bill. And that guy just surprises me. He was the best thing in that, and he just keeps on getting better with age for some reason. Usually you start to see the decline with some actors, but he's just getting better and better. I love the supporting cast. There was so many good cameos in it as well. The action was great. The fight scenes I loved. Comedic as well. You gotta love the action comedies when they're done right like this. My favourite time that I've had in the movies, and I've rewatched this film about 4 or 5 times already since it's come out. It'll definitely be a movie that I'm going to be keep on watching in the future and highly recommend to friends. So, yeah, Bullet Train is my favourite movie of the year, surprisingly. I don't know if a lot of people would have picked it, but it's my favourite. And yeah, let me know down below in the comments what you guys think your top 10 or just your favourite movie in general that you watched this year. Anyway, guys, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when I'm uploading next. I'll definitely be doing a movie reacting in the coming weeks because I want to get more of them out instead of a huge gap between each movie reaction. I'll be doing a poll as well on what movie you guys want to choose for me to react to. I'll be putting that on the channel after this video is released so you guys can vote for that. I'll have that up for about a week before I decide, so it gives you guys plenty of time to vote. But anyway, it's been Shapy. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, great New Year, and peace out, guys.